Hello. Hello, hello. Happy Saturday, everybody. Today we are going to have a little live here on a Saturday and talk about what is student-centered math. This is a passion of mine. It's been a passion of mine for 10 years. And really, my passion for student-centered learning started in math and has helped me be a better teacher in everything I teach. But really, my passion for student centered teaching started in math. So, and obviously, math is my jam. That's why we're all here. But I want to talk about what it is because I think it's one of those words that gets thrown around, and not necessarily everybody has the same definition. So let's talk today a little bit about what it is. If you want to say hey in the comments, that would be awesome. Just let me know that you're here and let me know what you think student centered learning is, or teaching, or math. What's student centered math to you? So, to me, student centered math is where the students are at the center, as the term says, right? But the students are the ones who are doing the thinking, the doing. Students are doing exploring, and they're the ones responsible for the figuring out. And I think a lot of us as teachers believe that's what we do in our classrooms every day. And at least for me, that's what I thought I was doing. Um, but in my fifth year of teaching, I kind of had a rude awakening when I did some real reflection and realized that I was doing way more of the talking than my students were. I was doing most of the teaching, most of the explaining, most of the let me show you how to do it. And frankly, that's how we're taught to do things in our teacher preparation courses, right? We're taught to stand up and deliver the instruction. Even our curriculum tells us to do that, right? So I'm here saying, I think, and what happened in my own classroom is that when I reflected on who is it that's doing most of the thinking, the doing, the exploring, the figuring out, the explaining, when I reflected on that and I thought to myself, truly, who's doing more of that? It was me. I was the one that was doing it. And the phrase is that students, or I'm sorry, that teachers need to be the guide on the side, not the sage on the stage. Well, back then, I was the sage on the stage. I was the one standing in front explaining all the things. So, student-centered teaching changed it all for me when I decided to be the guide on the side and center my students' thinking. And really, let's see, you can start a student-centered classroom tomorrow, right? We just need to start by knowing our students deeply. So you can't have a student-centered classroom unless you really know your students. And I'm not just talking about who they are and what they like, and if they have a brother or sister in the school, or even like what kind of books they like to read, or if they think they're good at math. Those are all great things to know about your students. But I'm talking about knowing them social emotionally. I'm talking about knowing what they know about math. So knowing their strengths and weaknesses in their math content knowledge, in their ability to problem solve, and all of their habits, right, in math, as well as those math practice standards. How do they do at making sense of problems? How are they at using tools to figure it out? What models and strategies do they normally use? So we can start a student-centered math classroom Monday morning by really just getting to know our students. And honestly, that is what student-centered math is. Simply, the students are doing most of the thinking, doing, explaining, and the teacher is that guide on the side that really knows them. And when we think about what we know about our students, and when we know them really well, then we can build on that. And that's where the teacher planning comes in, the questioning, the nudges. It's all based on what our students know. And it's so let's talk for a second about what it's not, right? So I just told you what it was. What is it not? It's not what I was doing for all of those years, all of the first 5 years of my teaching, which is it's not showing. It's not telling students what to do. It's not explaining the math. It's not explaining how to do something or what to do. That just creates mimicking. That just makes our classroom a place where students follow the steps. And that just creates, I don't know, people like us. Maybe this is your experience. If it is, let me know in the comments. But it creates adults who don't know math because we were just taught steps to follow. Keep, change, flip is such a good example of that. And I had students in my class in 5th and 6th grade math who would always say, I know a different strategy. I can just show you this thing. It's where you keep this one the same and then you flip this one and then you just multiply. And I would say, yeah, okay, you can use that when you can explain to me why it works with manipulatives or a visual model. And they had learned that because their adults at home were teaching them that because that's what we were taught in school. So we don't want to create a place where our students are learning to just follow steps. We want to create a place where our students deeply and conceptually understand the math, right? I know it goes against a little bit of what is being told to us in other Facebook groups. Or professional learning communities. I'm in so many groups, you guys, and I see just this morning I saw a post that said, I'm teaching 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication. What should I do? And I opened up the 42 comments that were on there, and every single one said, I show them the area model, or I do it this way, or I teach them to take away the zeros and simplify it. Like all these things to do. And I struggle with that because I was the kid that was when you taught me how to do that, I didn't get it. I shut down. And I further believed that math wasn't for me. When I was told this is the way we do this math, this kind of math, I shut down because I like to be creative and I like to talk and I like to use my own brain. And I really don't like to be told what to do, right? Mike? It's my husband's over there. I really don't like to be told what to do. So in math, when teachers would be telling me what to do, I shut down. It's not for me. But math doesn't have to be like that. That isn't what math is, actually. So let's go back, to what student-centered math is. Student-centered math is where students get to be creative. They get to explore. They get to use tools and draw pictures and figure out how to do 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication or whatever content it is you're teaching. Now, here's the thing. Even though it's student-centered math, and I keep talking about all the things kids get to do in this, it really is like an iceberg. At the top, above the water, you see it looks like kids are running the show. But what really lies underneath is a well-planned teacher. It is a completely expertly planned operation under there that allows students to do all that constructing of meaning. And it's the expert plan that allows the students to move in a direction of deep understanding and a joyful math experience. So what's lying under the surface of a student-centered math class? Let's talk about it. It is the teacher, and that's it, right? You are the expert in the room. And we all need to feel that way these days because there's too many things going on where we don't feel like the expert. But I want to remind you that you are there for those children. You are the person they hired to be in that room, right? You're the expert. So teacher's main job in a student-centered class is to plan by knowing the standards, by prioritizing the ones that are the most important, and then putting them in a logical order. And a lot of times that happens from our curriculum or from district pacing guides or whatever. But we, as the experts in the student-centered math class, are ensuring we understand those standards, that we know those things. We know the end goal clear. And then we are planning high quality math tasks. We're finding them, we're making sure we understand them, we're choosing them strategically so that we can drive our students' understanding toward that standard, toward achieving that final end goal. And we're making sure that those math tasks are challenging enough because we know our students. That's how I started this all off, right? Teachers know their students in a student-centered math class so that when we're planning, we can choose the right amount of challenge to meet our students' needs. And then we're planning for those tasks by considering that progression of understanding that's going to take students from the most basic level to the most advanced. And that most advanced might even be over the standard, right? And we're planning out all the possible ways that students could achieve that standard and beyond. And we're thinking about, where do our students lie right now on that progression? And we're considering the questions we'd ask to move a student from here to here, or what nudge or what math tool or what question are we going to pose to them to give them what they need to move. So let's see, we might even think about like specific students in our planning. Like, okay, I know so-and-so is using base 10 blocks for that 2-digit addition problem. What questions am I going to use to really question him, to move him beyond that level that he's at right now, to the next step in the progression? Knowing that progression is so key to being the expert in the room, where students can do whatever it is that feels right to them. But because we know that progression so well and so deeply, we know how to push them and nudge them while keeping them in control. It also is about discussion. The teacher's job is to facilitate a discussion. Now, this is steeped in SEL, in social emotional learning. And so teachers are teaching students skills that are going to help them, from being better communicators to learning from other perspectives to asking and answering high quality questions. Teachers are asking questions to help students examine and go deep into the conceptual math, right? So the teacher in a student-centered math class is planning, they're leading discussions, they're using assessments. That's the third, kind of the fourth thing. Know your students, plan, discussion, assessment. Using assessments, both formal and informal, both formative and summative, that are going to help you see where your students are in that progression, so that you can better plan math tasks. It's going to help you better know your students. I don't really care right now to talk about like standardized tests. I'm talking about the exit ticket at the end of the lesson. I'm talking about your observational notes. How are you using assessment to move your students along that progression? Conferencing in small groups. So we have know your students, plan, discussion, assessment, conferencing in small groups. A teacher's job is to listen and truly understand the students' thinking, what they know, so that you can nudge and question them along, as I've been saying this whole time, right? But that also happens in conferencing and small groups. This is not the time where we flip to a direct teaching model and we say, okay, watch me, let me explain, now you do. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying in a small group or in a conference, you might show them a manipulative or explain something small, like a little nugget, and explain to them something so that it can push them in their thinking to that next level. But keeping students thinking at the center of your instruction and really building the skills in these conferences and small groups that both builds math confidence and a positive math identity, while also building skills in math, all at the same time as holding the bar high. Expectations can't be lowered in a student-centered math class. It has to be everyone always can and will and does math joyfully in a student-centered math class. It's not that we have the low group over here and the high group over here, and the high group gets the math task and the low group gets the small group where I tell them what to do. That's not it. We all can do this math. And the level of support looks different, right? But we could go way into that. But in student-centered math classes, students feel confident, free to explore, and make mistakes to learn by doing. That is the thesis of what is student-centered math class. Let me just say it again. Students feel confident and free to explore and make mistakes and to learn by doing, all while teachers are getting to know them, planning, observing, making decisions on when to nudge and ask questions, all based on their expertise in the math concepts and the standards and their experience with that progression of understanding. Because it's a balance of control. And it's like that iceberg, right? Where on the top, all that you can see is it looks like it's a free-for-all for kids and they get to do math in whatever way they want. But really, it's supported by this huge, expertly planned operation that's allowing students to construct meaning. That is all in that expertly planned, foundation that's moving students along that progression. And it's where everyone is moving toward a deep understanding of math and a joyful math experience. That is exactly why I am obsessed with student-centered math. Thanks for asking. So if you have questions about this, or you're like, yeah, but what about blank? Put them in the comments here and let's talk about it. I would also love for you to ask questions, because then I can make a whole other video on your question. All right. I appreciate you being in this community and being here and engaging with us. And I want to give you as much value as I possibly can in making this, what I just described, a reality in your classroom. That's what I feel pulled to do. That is why I spend time on the internet here with you all, because I want your students to find joy and a deep understanding and love for math and be empowered to know that they can do real math in the real world. So I hope you have a great rest of your Saturday. Bye, friends.